Does that mean we have to stop talking about Cirque du Soleil and the beach?
Well, you just have to
Oh,
be
that's
careful.
being
Yes.
recorded.
Hmm.
Okay. Thanks for joining, everybody. I will jump into the agenda. I've got the, going to call the meeting to order. I'm going to do the statement and then I will do the roll call. The Housing Desegregation Subcommittee meeting has now commenced. It is March 4th at 9:35. This meeting is being held virtually due to COVID-19 to allow for social distancing and protect the public health. As we continue our efforts in meeting remotely, we ask all commissioners and guests to mute yourselves until called upon to speak to avoid feedback and background noise. For those who have dialed in using the call-in number, to unmute to speak, dial *6 on your phone. Also, prior to speaking, please announce who you are to identify yourself. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. We ask that you only use the chat function to request to speak or to announce that you are leaving the meeting so that we can track quorum. Also, to comply with the state open meeting law, attendance and votes will be done by way of roll call using audio, not by using the chat function. So with that, I will do roll call. And at this point, I think it's just me and Lori and Vicky who are officially on the committee. So at this point, Lori Mazurbo.
Present.
Vicky Cusino, I do not see her, so I'm going to assume she's not here. And Jay Young, that's me, I'm here. So with that, we have quorum. And with that, we can move into agenda item number 3, which is new Housing Desegregation Subcommittee members. And I know also we've agreed to change that name, so we'll get to that as well. But my understanding from Neto is that we can have up to 5 members of the subcommittee. If we go above that, we will, I think, be at quorum for the full commission. So I'm not sure what Vicky's status is going to be. I don't know if she's going to continue with us, but until I hear otherwise, she is on the subcommittee as well. So with that, that makes 3 of us, and so we can have 2 more on the subcommittee officially, and then I would still love for everybody that's here to come and participate. So I guess my question is, who wants to be on the commission, and maybe who would like to just kind of attend as a commissioner, but not actually a voting member of the subcommittee. So we've got Kenny, Ray, and Tisha that are new, that I think I've invited to come today. So
I'm happy to.
Oh, go ahead, Kenny.
Oh, I was just going to say, so I had been on the Affordable Housing Subcommittee, but I know this past week we didn't get to meet. And I'd be interested in joining this particular subcommittee with its reorganization. I think it'll align well with some of the stuff that I'm working on at the university. And so happy to participate in whatever way makes sense. And I know, because I'm in 2 at the moment. I don't know what the best course of action is at the moment.
And Jay, I was going to say, could we reach out to Vicky? Because it didn't seem like last time we met that she was interested in staying on, and I'd hate for folks who want to be on not be able to be on because she hasn't let us know yet. So maybe we could get an official yes or no from her.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great idea. And I know, Tisha, you had, I think, expressed to me offline that you were willing to go either way as well, either be a member or just attend. So
correct.
What about you, Ray? I know you had also expressed interest in actually becoming a member. So
yeah, I'm the same either way. I'm happy to just attend, but happy to be a full member. I'm not on another subcommittee.
okay. Well, why don't we definitely have Ray on, since she's not on another subcommittee. And then I guess, Tisha, between you and Kenny, at least at this point, we should decide who. Tisha, are you leading one of the subcommittees as well?
I am.
Okay. Well, Kenny, do you want to be the official member of the subcommittee at this point until we see what Vicky's going to do? And so that would be Kenny, and Ray joining today, and then Tisha attending, at least at this point, as a friend of the subcommittee, so to speak. Does that work for everybody? And then
Thank you.
And then also in talking to Neto, I don't know that we actually need to do anything else aside from welcome Kenny and Ray to the subcommittee. Is that accurate?
That's my understanding so far, that they
Okay,
just join, just up.
great. Well, we will we will consider y'all joined, and
Thank you.
when we have the full commission meeting,
Right.
I'll just bring that up and make sure that
Right.
we've got new members, and if somebody has some procedure that we need to do, then we'll do that. But at this point, we'll consider Kenny and Ray on the subcommittee. So I do really appreciate you guys joining the subcommittee. I do think that there's a lot of work that we can do as this subcommittee of elevating equity related policies and whatnot in the housing space, I think in a way that's really needed for the full commission, and that, we as a group prior have been working on, but also I think struggling to kind of get things elevated and make some real progress. So appreciate y'all joining, and really looking forward to working together in 2024 and beyond. With that, if there are no questions or comments, I'll move to agenda item number 4, which is the Office of Equity update. I don't see anybody from the Office of Equity here today.
That's correct. I did send an invitation to Larice Walker, but she's unable to attend.
Okay.
And
yeah, they've been pretty good about attending over the past several meetings as well. So I expect that as we move forward, they will attend, a representative will attend with some regularity, and we can continue to reach out to them and let them know, as obviously Neto did today. Number 5 on the agenda, HCD update. Neto, do you guys have any updates that you'd like to share?
just share with the commissioners, good morning, that the city continues pursuing the proposed idea of establishing a resource center in the Amphi neighborhood at the former Fire Station 8 on Keene Road, which is in the northeast quadrant of Prince and Oracle. Director Ann Chineka decided to have another community meeting, and that is scheduled for April. I should have it off to my head, but I think it's April 14th. Thereabouts. Sorry. It'll be during the week on a Thursday. And I'll get notice to you, but we'll have another community meeting there at the old fire station. Understandably, we have some strong resistance, opposition from immediate neighbors. We do have some support from other neighbors, but we want to again convey and gather, address more of the concerns of residents. Again, with the plans to proceed, this is a planned area development. The city will HCD will put forth to planning and zoning a request to rezone that particular spot. It's about 2 acres. And that's what we have so far.
Why does it need to be rezoned, Neto? Do you know?
It allows the city more flexibility in zoning by creating a planned area development pad. It provides for more flexibility, specifically on the parking requirement.
Got it.
The bane of everyone's existence these days,
Yeah.
Parking requirements.
And then what was your understanding of some of the main opposition, and was there also any support?
There is some support. There is support. The opposition, from our perspective, from my perspective of the last 2 meetings, is that residents who understandably are concerned about existing homeless situation in the immediate neighborhood. There's a good amount in that area, as is there across the city. And Residents believe, those who are in opposition, that the resource center will serve as a magnet for more homeless individuals. They have not so much opposed the idea of a resource center. They just oppose the idea of the resource center there on Keene Road.
Right.
Again, that would serve as a magnet in their view. We have pointed out that the nearby Wildcat Inn, which is not that far, maybe a mile at most on Oracle, is a successful shelter for individuals and families, and you can visit that place anytime, and you do not see individuals lined up or grouping outside. The city's proud, HCD is proud of maintaining the properties that it does have currently in a very orderly and safe fashion. So again, to answer your question, Jay, they just see this as a magnet. They would rather the city sweep away. I'm sorry to use that word.
Mm-hmm.
To remove individuals from that area. Of course, we point out that this would serve the individuals who live on the street in that area in a safe, clean environment, provide services. But so far, there's a strong few opponents. So we need to separate the two issues: homelessness and what the shelter can do.
Right. What are the resources that will be provided? Is it just kind of a place for homeless folks to come to generally get services and get back on their feet and that kind of thing?
Generally, we're just talking about services right now. We don't have a more specific work plan.
Got it.
But we do note to the community that El Rio Clinic is practically across the street. So with El Rio, we will have some medical services. We'll also have the Housing First services, providing them with some counseling, some direction, stability. Of course, it comes with living in a stable, clean residence. The general idea is to have congregate care in the fire station, and hopefully some kind of casita, tiny home, non-congregate care in the back.
Got it. I'm sure you guys have pointed this out, but I live a few blocks from Primavera's hospitality center at 5 Points.
At 5 Points.
And resource center. But it's a similar situation where I live. I mean, there are a lot of homeless people around the neighborhood at Santa Rita Park, and then Primavera's got its resource center, and obviously homeless folks go there, but it's not been a magnet or some kind of, it's not created some different dynamic because there are services there. So there's a really good example, I think, of that. And as far as I know, I'm sure there was some opposition, but I think generally the folks in the area are relatively supportive of it. So anyway.
So we are working closely with the residents and to again listen and alleviate some of their concerns.
Thanks, Neto. Any questions, comments, thoughts before we move on? Okay, number 6 on the agenda is the retreat debrief. So I thought what we would do is, and this has kind of been part of the overall process of the retreat, is that we were asked as the subcommittees to come together and basically, have a reflection, look at the goals and action items, and just kind of generally have a debrief about the retreat. And I would like to highlight the retreat. I guess at this point, there's still the draft notes from the retreat. But I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at them, and I can actually, let's see, drop the link to the notes in the chat just to kind of give us a frame of reference. All right, put that in the chat. So I guess I just at this point like to open it up as y'all kind of take a look at the notes, just to refresh your memory. any kind of reflections that y'all have about the retreat, what worked, what didn't, kind of what things are looking like for 2024 and beyond. So I'd love to open up the floor and get some feedback.
I can go first. And I definitely thought there was some bright spots. I will say I was disappointed a little bit. I really had hoped that we would have a clearer path forward, and I felt like we spent a lot of time wordsmithing stuff, and that didn't seem to me like the best use of our time. I also found the facilitation kind of frustrating at times. I do like that the mayor spent so much time with us. I'm not sure that we have a total clear path forward from her. I know she gave us the Plan Tucson, is that what it's called? Objectives for us to look at. I wished we would have talked about that a little bit more after she left, because I felt like that would have given us some real clear direction forward. I don't know. I'm curious to hear what others thought. I was really looking forward to meeting in person and really hoping that we would have a real good guideline, because there was a lot of frustration expressed in the survey. And so I thought it was really, really important for us to use that time to fix some of those things that were brought up in the survey. And I'm not sure that we really did that.
Thought I might jump in. I thought it was useful. It was great to meet and see all of you in person. I think it's the first time we've been in a room together, so that was really much appreciated. And yeah, it felt effective to me in order to, see each other face to face and have some of these discussions. With the reorganization of the subcommittee, I think and some of that wordsmithing, I thought it was useful to kind of wrap my head around, what the different subcommittees are doing, and develop a few more points of action. So I think there's some pretty productive suggestions too of, being a clearinghouse, having our eyes open towards what's happening in other cities, perhaps engaging a little bit more at the neighborhood level to kind of understand what folks' concerns are, like we just heard, and try to see, how to build support around a lot of policies too. I think we hear a lot about the opposition, but it's not so clear what the how much support, vocal support is needed in order to kind of balance the scales around different issues and initiatives. So I don't know, with the reorganization, I thought, it sounded like this subcommittee could be really effective and capture my own interests.
I thought the retreat was very helpful. I think the importance of this subcommittee in particular is acknowledged. And I do think that moving forward on the goals for this year is critical to the success of the subcommittee. I liked the support that the mayor provided on recommendations for the Prosperity Initiative. I don't know whether this subcommittee wants to take that on or take that on in part, because certainly the Housing First subcommittee could also do some of that, but there's nothing but room for implementation recommendations in regards to Prosperity Initiative. I do think that the equitable lens in regards to housing strategy is critical moving forward in any jurisdiction, and in particular in Tucson with historical housing segregation along economic, racial, and ethnic divides. So I think all of that was a part of the discussion in the retreat, and I just look forward to it being included. I think part of that equitable strategy in regards to housing may be in the discussion we had on indicators. As a result of the yeah, I thought that the two reports that we've been looking at for the last year, and finally got into, I think, a substantive discussion on it, on equity. I think, one of those recommendations in our discussion that followed in regards to indicators is an important piece to follow up on. And I look forward to being a part of the discussion.
I really appreciated the retreat space. I liked getting the time to share more personally with each other. And I did find it helpful to have clarity on the goals. And I feel like there was like build up beforehand of like, oh, we'll talk about that retreat. We'll talk about that the retreat. And in some ways, I felt like some of the things could have been like, things that we could have talked about without paying $10,000 for facilitators. I feel like that part of the expectation around it was something I'd want to check in moving forward, of just ensuring that we're being considerate of HCD funds there. As we move forward potentially with more paid facilitation. Yeah, I was grateful for that space itself, and did find it helpful for starting to understand more what the different subcommittees were tasked with.
That's great. Thanks so much for the feedback, everyone. I would say I'm kind of with you, Lori. I think that there were, potentially some shortcomings that, some things that we could have gotten to that we didn't. But all in all, I felt like it was a really positive meeting. I felt like at the very least, it seemed like we came out of it feeling better, which I think, we really can't discount, how we're kind of perceiving our work and working together. So I thought that was good. A couple of things that stuck out to me that have already been mentioned, but I think are worth highlighting again because they stuck out to me. One was the centering of the Prosperity Initiative. I do really think that provides us like a path where there's political interest, right? Both Pima County and the city of Tucson have passed it, or whatever it is that they did. I mean, it's gone up to mayor and council and the supervisors, and they've all approved it. So just the fact that that's kind of on the radar and that there's a framework, I think provides a space for us to plug in and elevate policies that we think can affect housing equity, and I think really equity in general. I did also appreciate the subcommittee reorganization, and I think the name that we came to was Equitable Housing Strategies. Does that sound right? I gotta really get that in my head. So we're now called the Equitable Housing Strategies Subcommittee, which is great because as Lori will attest to, we talked lots and lots and lots and lots about housing desegregation and kind of the elements that go into it. And we talked a lot about equitable policies as well, but I think we really struggled to kind of make the jump to, okay, what are the policies and how do we kind of elevate that to the full subcommittee? So we've definitely laid the groundwork in talking about the segregation and desegregation part. So looking forward to really kind of diving into policies and thinking about how we elevate that. And I think, for me, I'm just really excited that those of you that are new have agreed to come and work through some of this stuff. And Lori, obviously, having been here from the beginning, thanks for continuing on and taking it to the next level and kind of the next place for the subcommittee. I do think there's an interesting question about the facilitation. I'm excited that we basically voted to have facilitation at all our meetings. I just think that really helps. But if we have some questions or issues with the way that the facilitation happened or has been occurring, I think we really need to dig into that and either if we continue with the same facilitators, really be clear about maybe what's working and what wasn't and what we would like from the facilitators, or opt to try and get new facilitators. So I think that sticks out to me. And then obviously, again, this was, I think, Tisha, you mentioned this, but it's been something I've been really interested in are the indicators, right? What are the indicators we're looking at? And, I know that there are, it's just, for me, it's just hard to kind of piece together what is going on, because on the one hand, it seems like nothing's going on. And then it's like, oh no, well, wait a minute. The Office of Equity has been working on this, and Laura Sharp is mapping, and, we've given input about indicators, but, where is that in the process, and how, what's our role there? So there is movement and action, but, how that's all kind of coming together is still relatively confusing. And, hopefully we can maybe help shepherd that forward if there's, stuff going on, and have more input, because, I think as probably all of us at one point or another, either individually or as, smaller groups, have really elevated how important those indicators are, and really nailing that down. So anyway, I think that I guess the last thing I'll say too is just kind of back to the political piece. I do really appreciate the mayor's engagement, and I've been very impressed with her grasp of the equity issues, both historical and kind of current political issues that really I guess limit what I feel like is equitable in this community. So I do think that there's an ally in the mayor, and I think if we can bring some stuff forward, I think that there's a chance that we can get some stuff in front of mayor and council that they'll appreciate and potentially adopt. So I think that her participation, both when Jim and I had the opportunity to meet with her, and then her coming and spending, I mean, she really did spend quite a bit of time with us. So I thought that was encouraging. So those are my reflections. The other thing I wanted to highlight that I think we need to talk about as a group is the overall mission of of CEHD. And in the notes, that is on, looks like page 5, number 4, on page 5, number 4, mission and goals. And then if you look on that page under mission, that's bolded in black and underlined, there are some red edits. So I don't know if we don't really need to go into it too much. If we're kind of happy with this, great. But if there's some comments and things we want to raise to the full commission, I would love to hear some comments. Yeah, Lori, I see your hand. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say you said it a lot more eloquently. I think having been on the commission from the very beginning, so 4 years now, I was really hoping for like a charge, like, a real solid charge. And I still don't know that we have that. And I think that was where my disappointment lies. It's been 4 years. I've missed one meeting in 4 years of the commission. And I want a specific charge. I want to be told this is what we need to do. And I didn't quite feel like that is exactly what we got. I don't want to say it wasn't valuable, but I think you said it a little bit better, Jay. And I agree that with the points that you just brought up, that if we can work on those, then maybe I'll feel like we have a more specific goal to move forward.
Lori, do you think that can or should be captured in what we're kind of talking about, the mission and goals?
Yes.
And or do you think that because we're talking about mission and goals for the larger HCD, but then we will also get into the goals for this subcommittee in particular. Do you think we can get it there, or do you think that there's an opportunity to try and figure that out in another way to really understand what our charge is? Or do we need to ask more clearly, or do we just need to make it up ourselves? Or do you have any thoughts about that? Anybody else?
I think if we started maybe in our subcommittee, that would be great, but I still am not, I think we have good goals to move forward for each committee, but I'm not sure as a commission that was clear to me. So I feel good about our subcommittee, and actually all the way through, I felt pretty good about our subcommittee. I think we've done some significant work in bringing things up, but I don't know as a whole commission if we're quite there yet.
Right. Any thoughts about that, y'all, specifically, or does that kind of go into the mission that we're looking at? I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
I wonder, I hear, I think that came up in the survey too, like not having a really specific way of what the overall commission's supposed to do. And I wonder, where's our envelope for kind of defining that too, whether it's from the subcommittees upwards or as a commission together as we're meeting more frequently in person. I don't know. I feel like yeah, it's both an opportunity, right? And yeah.
Well, the strength of the commission may lie in the subcommittee. I mean, as long as the subcommittees are meeting their goals, making the more substantive recommendations that can get, delve a little deeper, then maybe the commission is the gathering piece and the 10,000 feet piece.
Go ahead, Ray.
Valerie, about the charge of the commission and getting that direction. I think for me, I want to like continue to come back to like we create that like I don't want to wait for mayor and council to give us that charge. For me, we don't work for mayor and council. We are like pushing mayor and council to be doing things that are contributing to housing justice. So yes, I think like making sure that we allow ourselves to break free from those confines. I think we have a great working relationship there. Like I really appreciate the relationship with HCD, and like it's not like I want that to be adversarial in any way. It's more just saying like I think it's important for us to not feel like we can only do things that mayor and council is asking for, because I don't think that's the role of a commission.
Yeah, I also think, to that point, Ray, I think if mayor and council were really clear about what they needed, I don't think that they would hesitate to ask us for that. And I think partly they don't know. And I think I will also say, I think in the interactions with Mayor Romero, I think she's intentional about painting broad strokes and letting us know that she's understands equity and thinks it's important, and is wanting to go down that road. But I think she's intentionally not being specific. I mean, maybe she doesn't know specifics off the top of her head, but I think it's more of kind of her leaving the door open for us, right? And I remember Richard Elias telling me some years ago, as mayor and council, we need folks like y'all to give us the backing that we need to pass these policies. So I think it's important that, we provide that kind of backing and that know-how and, community-based perspective that gives them the cover, mayor and council, that they need to enact more equitable policies. So yeah, I think that we have a lot of opportunity here to really define that. And I'm with you, Ray. I think our job is to really try and push the boundaries. And, maybe another way to frame it is just to elevate things that we know might work that just kind of aren't on the radar. So, whether that's, just surfacing things or pushing the boundaries or whatever, I do think there's a lot of opportunity there. What do y'all think about, again, going back to the mission and goals, do y'all think, kind of based on what we're talking about, that the mission as it is with the kind of edits in red, really capture what we want to do as a full commission. Obviously, we worked on this some in the retreat, but now's an opportunity to, you know, does that still land? Is there anything that's missing? Do we want to make any other suggestions? I mean, I'll just say I'm still a little bit something about number 3 kind of lands a little funny for me. I think it's hard for me to exactly articulate why, but I just how we're going to do that seems challenging to me. So I also just kind of feel like either landlords and developers are kind of get it and are on the team already, or they don't really care about it and it's not, they're not going to be won over. I could be a little pessimistic. I'm also not necessarily, I don't necessarily think we should not have number 3, but that one just strikes me as a little bit challenging for what we can do as a commission. I think the other place, obviously, that where there's a lot of opportunity again for this subcommittee is with number 2. I mean, I don't really think that we've done that, and I will say that I think it's been really challenging, and I think this is one of the challenges that it's probably just the nature of this kind of commission work and the relationship between, you know, us as the commission and you know, government officials and entities, but it's just hard. It's been really challenging, I think, to get a clear answer, and maybe that is the answer, that, you know, what actually has been done, if anything, to protect neighborhoods from gentrification and ultimately displacement. I know that there's some stuff going on, but again, I think it's an opportunity to be more clear as a city of what does that look like, and setting the stage for some actual policies, or at least understanding what the policies are. Because, you know, I know we've asked a couple of times and there's been some presentations, but I still come away thinking like, doesn't seem like there's a whole lot going on with protecting neighborhoods. And so what does that look like?
Just to the first point, I sort of agree with that third item. But I think won over, I guess, in our discussion by kind of balancing that with that fourth point. I think it's still sort of up in the air. And for me, it was more about it was kind of acknowledging the different stakeholders that are out there and providing an open door, a way for different groups or interests to kind of come to the table and know how to engage with the commission in some way. So I like that fourth point of this educational piece, and reaching communities a little bit better. And yeah, I don't know what's been done in the past, either from the subcommittees or the full commission, but that seemed an important balancing point. And I really appreciated the idea of strengthening the second point of preservation, and thinking about, what are some examples, other communities or places that we can learn from that have really tried to tackle this in some creative ways even.
Yeah, I echo that, Kenny. I think that the educational piece is, you know, where does that nuance lie? Where do the best practices lie? And mayoral staff, council staff doesn't necessarily have the time to do that sort of thing. I think we have the luxury and, you know, the ability to check out those resources and then come back with recommendations. I think one example, and I was talking with another city in the area about this very thing, is displacement of elderly folks who are disabled, and veterans. And there are a number of examples throughout the country, and I know of some in particular in Georgia, that allow for freezing of property taxes once folks reach a certain age or have a disability or a veteran. So that displacement piece has been accounted for in a number of places. I know that there are some unique things happening too in regards to landlord-tenant relationships. That, you know, if you aren't allowed to, which we aren't allowed to pass policy that would freeze rents, that you could actually do things that put more oversight on landlords, and municipalities can do that. So, you know, there are a number of things I'm certain the commission can think through and then do some research and just, you know, make some calls, make some invitations to other commissions similar to ours in other jurisdictions, to get some real robust and nuanced recommendations to the mayor and council.
Oh, go ahead, Ray.
I agree with some of the maybe concern about point 3 as well, around the explicitly naming the landlords and development, or landlords and developers, if I was hearing that concern correctly. I think saying something about increasing equitable and accessible and affordable housing, but I don't know that it has to be about landlords and developers providing that per se, but like looking a little bit more broadly at other ways of creating that affordability. And then, yeah, Tisha, I appreciate your point there. I think there is a way of doing property tax freezing for seniors and people with disabilities who are also low income, but it's so limited. I think things like that could really be expanded, and would love to be delving more deeply into some strategies that we're recommending there, including like very largely increasing community land trusts. I think in taking land off the speculative market, I'm way more interested in that being part of the creating equitable, accessible, and affordable housing, is like massive removal of land from the speculative market into permanent affordability.
Thanks, y'all. Those great comments. One of the things that I think would be interesting, that I guess one of the things I think that surprised me a little bit about the kind of commission as a whole, that I think that those of you that are here today kind of change the dynamic a little bit. I think it's been really hard for the commission to have a clear vision of what equitable actually looks like. And, you know, I know that a lot of us have a background in equity and housing and kind of, you know, how all of that kind of works together. So I don't say this meaning that we don't have the expertise here, but I just wonder if it would, and I may be kind of jumping down the agenda a little bit, but if it wouldn't be useful to have an expert in the field of equitable housing come and address the full commission, to really kind of frame what we're talking about and what we're looking at doing going forward. And I think I think that a lot of that work can be centered in this subcommittee. But I still think even with commissioners, there's still this kind of like, you know, and this is always an issue with working in fair housing, but it's like, you know, affordable housing, and it's like, yes, we all know we need more affordable housing, but affordable and equitable, there's more to it when we're talking about equitable housing. So just making sure that we're really centering the equitable piece and the equity piece as the kind of affordability piece is working in parallel. So I'm really, you know, something that I've been thinking about quite a bit. So to kind of wrap up with, if we're ready to, the conversation about CEHD's overall mission, I've jotted down some notes, but I guess I'm just wondering, aside from kind of our reflections, do we want to do anything substantive or suggest any substantive changes to the mission when we report out to the full commission? Or are we basically okay with the mission as it is with the edits in red? What do y'all think? Do we want to raise some substantive changes or issues, or are we pretty much okay with it as it is? I mean, I guess I'll just say, you know, kind of to your point earlier, Lori, you know, we could spend some time wordsmithing, but I actually think that, you know, when I look at it, while, you know, I have some issues here and there, I do think as the mission is, we can do what we've been talking about wanting to do as a commission and as a subcommittee with the mission as is. So I'd be okay, you know, kind of leaving it as is for now. But you know, if there's feelings otherwise, I'm happy to do some wordsmithing or to raise some issues as well to the full commission.
I agree with you, Jay. I think it is a good start.
Others, what do y'all think? Are we good as is, or do we want to dive into this a little deeper?
I'm good as is, but I'm not a voting member of the subcommittee, so.
Strong
Well,
advising from Tisha.
Well, wordsmithing is not actually something I enjoy. I would like to look a little bit at 2 and 3. I think 2, there's in the parentheses, the consider adding something about making recommendations for repairing harm. And I think that this group might be an appropriate one to add that sentence there. And I would love to change the wording in number 3 to not just talk about landlords and developers, but just reframing that to some way of collaborating around creating and maintaining equitable, accessible, and affordable housing, but that isn't centering landlords and developers. It's like showing that there can be others who are involved in that.
Kenny, what do you think?
Happy to kind of dive into the language a little bit more too. You know, I think we've kind of acknowledged that third point is I don't know, there's something about it that could be reworded. So I think we should explore that. And for number 2 too, it makes me think, you know, the harm by who, right? You know, so I don't know if that's something that we need to be more specific about, but I thought overall it kind of as is, it also gives us enough space to kind of explore what the different subcommittees are doing. But you know, I think it makes sense to suggest what we'd like to see to the full commission, and then continue the discussion there.
And what about for number 2, being really specific about the city acknowledging harm that it has inflicted and specific reparations for that harm?
So I'm good with that, and I'm just wondering if maybe what we do is we have this as a little bit of homework for next time, that we all review 2 and 3 and start working on the language, just kind of in the interest of time and you know, getting together as our first meeting. Do you guys want to work on this now together, or should we look at it and come next time we come together, dive into it a little deeper, have it as an agenda item?
I'm fine making comments on the Google Doc and revisiting it together later.
Does that work for everybody? Homework and revisit at our next subcommittee meeting?
I guess the only wrinkle is that the full commission will meet on Thursday. So I don't know how much time we have to kind of discuss, but
I
that
mean,
would work for me.
I mean, I think we can, I think we can say, you know, we discussed it and, you know, we have some issues with 2 and 3 and we would like to, you know, dive into that a little bit and are planning on working on that at our next subcommittee meeting. I don't see any reason that that would be a problem. I don't think we have to, you know, be like, okay, we're gonna get everything done, mission and vision, and if we don't do it by the next meeting that we can't do it, so. Okay, so I think we've got some consensus about kind of looking at 2 and 3. I'll make sure to mention that in the report out to the full commission, you know, that we would like to work on it a little bit in our subcommittee and come back with some potential edits before the next or for the next meeting. All right, with that, let's see. Goals and action. Oh yeah, right. So now let's the next thing I want to look at regarding the retreat are the goals for each subcommittee. So if you scroll down, looks like page 6. You can see the affordable housing goals, and then under that are the housing segregation goals, and here equitable housing strategies is the renaming. And I guess we had quite a productive conversation about our goals when we had the retreat. So take a look at the 4 goals in red. Again, I guess the question is, how do these look? Do we want to make any changes? And then how much of that do we want to do today versus maybe also as part of our next meeting, diving into this a little more deeply? Yeah, let me drop it in the chat. Let's see. Oh, I don't think I sent it to everybody. Let's go. All right, that's it. Just dropped it in the chat.
I could go back 1 second to the broader one. I just put in a sentence at the end of number 2. And then I think we could maybe actually just delete number 3 would be my recommendation. When I read number 4 again, it seems like that holds a lot of what number 3 says. I could put those in as my individual comments on the document.
I wonder if in terms of the repair harm piece, I mean, I know that this is a city commission, but I just wonder if it should be broader than that of like, you know, past government, private sector. I just wonder if we should kind of outline, you know, some bigger, just go a little bit bigger, because, you know, I know the city of Tucson obviously has played a role, but, you know, a lot of, I think, what I perceive as the harm has come from, you know, the federal government as well, and then, you know, the city kind of operating within that framework. So just a thought there. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
It seems like that could be a both and, like name that broader, including specifying the city of Tucson within that, but I'm totally in agreement with broadening that out.
I mean, I guess, you know, if we're talking about it and eliminating number 3, I mean, one of the things, a way that I think that could actually be changed potentially, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, but something about identifying and reducing barriers to providing accessible, affordable housing. I mean, because one of the things I feel like with developers is, to me, I feel like developers are often singled out as being the bad actors. And I just often feel like, well, we as the citizens through our government are setting up the rules that they're playing by, and to then be like, well, the developers are doing bad because they're playing by the rules that we've set up, just doesn't, it doesn't make sense to me. So I'm just wondering if it's more about, you know, again, like something like identifying the barriers, or providing a more clear framework for actors in the market to be able to, you know, act in a more equitable way. Again, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, but I don't know. Any more thoughts about this now, or do y'all want to have this as some homework to further add and wordsmith? I'm happy to go either way. Keep working on it now, or give time for homework. Well, we can kind of bounce. We can kind of bounce. So let's look also at the goals for the housing, for the equitable housing strategies subcommittee as well. Did we get this pretty good in the retreat, or do we want to again do some wordsmithing now and or as homework? I think number 2 is probably supposed to say around the country. And I would also say for number 2, with a focus on how they address housing segregation and equity, something like that. So I think we're wanting to have a little bit bigger lens than just the housing segregation. Also, for number 3, wouldn't we likely provide recommendations to the full commission to provide recommendations to mayor and council? I don't think we would, as the subcommittee, do that, right? What's it? 2.
It's kind of minor, but for 1 and 2, there seems to be a lot of overlap, and I wonder if we might delete number 1 and just keep number 2 of explore and research equitable housing policies and advocacy around the country.
Yeah, I see what you mean, Ray. And I think that keeping the advocacy language from number 1 and having that somewhere, whether it's in number 2, I think is important.
I was just going to add, I think for the affordable housing subcommittee, you know, it's this, it also has that same language of providing recommendations to mayor and council. So maybe that's something to clarify. And I think I had raised it at the retreat. Somewhere, maybe it belongs in number 4 there. Just initially what, keeping some of the goals of the desegregation committee, like race, ethnicity, perhaps income, disability and access. I thought some of that language was important to keep, because otherwise it wouldn't appear elsewhere in the commission.
Right.
So number 4 could be including around XYZ.
I think the equity study might have some good language to borrow.
Yeah, I also wonder, in terms of, keeping some of the language from number one, I wonder if we just include number one. Because, I feel like so much of the equity, dealing with equity ultimately goes back to housing segregation, but it's not the only thing, I mean, it's a big piece, but it's not the only piece. So, if we have that, still centering, the segregation piece, and then having another number that is, more about equity more broadly. But I'm also fine if it gets combined into one.
Just for clarification, did you mean keeping the previous kind of goal for the desegregation committee? I think
Yeah.
that would work for me.
Yeah.
Keep that as number one, just at the end of. Would you still be a clearinghouse for equitable policy and advocacy as it relates to race, ethnicity, disability, and access to opportunity in Tucson? Did I get that right, Jay?
Yeah, I think that could work. And I also think by having, resurfacing number one that's crossed out, I think it links nicely with addressing the harms, acknowledging and addressing the harms, because I think that's a big piece of it. So. Oh yeah, I totally didn't look at the discussion and next steps on the page, and it says there's some concern about the removal of race, ethnicity, and disability. So our thinking is consistent, I guess, nothing else. Do y'all remember, again, under a discussion and next steps, what that second bullet point is referring to? Look at report from the City of Tucson Office of Equity, page 16. That does not ring a bell.
I wonder if that's supposed to mean the equity study, those two reports that we were looking at the retreat.
Oh yeah, maybe so. So did we decide or to remove number one, the be a clearinghouse, and combine it with number two, or are we? Because I think we could do that.
So that be, just making sure I'm fully understanding what you're saying, Jay. So do delete number one, keep number two, but add the race, ethnicity, disability, income, and access to opportunities to number two.
Well, I think you raised the point, Ray, that number one and number two are really similar. And so I think we could just, like you were saying, eliminate number one potentially. I see you put advocacy down in number two, and then we've taken the number one that's crossed out, the original goal, and it looks like it's been put into number four. So it seems like we're kind of capturing all the things that we've put on the table. Does that seem right to everybody?
I would just add and be a clearinghouse to number two. So then, we do the research and then we keep it, we're the institutional memory moving forward.
Got it.
What does clearinghouse mean to you? I was just looking it up online because I was like, I don't actually know what that word is.
Repository.
Repository? Mm-hmm.
Storage place.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the sweepstakes that used to give out $10 million? That's what I remember.
Yeah. And it looks like it's like related to financial institutions. So yeah, I like having a synonym for that. Um, and maybe that's part of like we're organizing and making accessible that information.
A research repository.
Yeah, because I think you can kind of get rid of explore seems like an extra word that's not needed. Like be a research repository or something.
But I do think you need to keep in research because it's not there yet. So, you know, we need to gather the research and then keep the research.
Gather and maintain, or
Sure.
This is such a detailed question, but wondering where would be the best place to organize that in a way that's accessible? Like, do we post that to the CHD website then so all people have access to it?
I mean, one of the things that I had done previously is some resources that I had come across and knew about. I basically just got to put a Word document together and put links on the Word document. Pretty rudimentary, but just kind of to center us as we were working in the beginning. But I do think it's important, and we've said a number of times, I think even as a full commission, that you know we need to have more resources available online that we're coming up with. So you know, but I think I've raised this as well. I think it's challenging oftentimes for a bureaucracy like the city to be updating a website with regularity and including those resources. But I also, you know, think there's some issues of us just kind of like keeping it separately that it's not available to the public. Although, you know, I guess as we continue to add stuff, it does end up showing up like online, like when we have the meeting notice and on the CEHD website, you know, it's like, and we're going to talk about this at the next meeting, and you know, the resources often go up that way. So I'm just kind of thinking out loud.
I agree. Right before you said that, I thought the agenda items is a great place without having to include the city and having to upload and update and all that.
I guess we could also, you know, as a subcommittee, think about, you know, having like a shared Google Drive or something where we're compiling resources, and then as we compile them, you know, sharing them through the agenda or something like that. Because I do think it's important for us, at least for me, you know, as I come across stuff, I often come across stuff that I want to share either with the full commission or with the subcommittee. And it's challenging, you know, it's like, do I need to email Neto and then he gives it and then back and forth? And, you know, can I just email stuff out? It'd be great if we could, you know, all access a Google Drive or something like that where we can drop stuff in. Because if we're going to be you know, gather and research and maintain, you know, I think we're going to need to be doing that. Going to need to have a little bit better system internally.
I agree, but then again, we need to make sure that that's available to the public, because even though we're not like talking, we're still sharing thoughts.
Right. I wonder how we can do that then, because I know exactly what you mean, Tisha, but like, what do we do in the interim but like between our committee meetings to be able to share stuff with each other?
Well, for example, in this meeting, you just shared it with everybody, so it's available to the public right now. And I think as long as you just keep updating the agenda items for the next meeting, unless Neto, you have a different idea on the open meetings law requirements, but I think as long as we're providing it.
Yeah, I think the way you're doing it is sufficient, and just to be double assured, I can attach these to our website. These documents I can share on our meeting websites.
Great.
So just so I understand the mechanics of this, let's say I come across a website or some other resource that I want to elevate to the subcommittee. Would I, let's say this happens, next week and we're between meetings, should I email that out to everybody on the subcommittee and CC Neto so that it goes up on the website, or you know what I mean?
I'm comfortable with that, Jay. And you share with your committee member, with the committee members, an item,
Right.
and yes, tag me and I'll put it up on the website.
Yeah, and sharing resources is a little different than us putting thoughts into a document, a living document, right?
Right.
So sharing resources, we always provide them. Even if we give the resource ahead of time, we always provide them to the public. But a living document's a little different because we're putting our thoughts in there. So, we're not all on there at the same time, but I just think that's just a little bit more nuanced, deserves a little bit more thought.
So I think what our homework, generally speaking, going forward is, as a group, we're going to want to try and uncover resources and be emailing those out to the group kind of as we're finding them, so that we can, have that on our agenda to, review the resources that get emailed out to our subcommittee and CCing Neto. So just our homework, generally speaking, let's find some resources and share them out. Great.
I like the idea, Jay, of having a Google Doc or something like that too, just internally. I think it's nice to not have to be searching back through our old emails to find the links to things. So even if we're emailing them out, if we could also have a shared place where those are organized in a way.
Yeah, I guess that takes care of the keeping it in the public view. If our whatever resource we have together, whether it's a Google Doc or whatever, as we put something on the Google Doc, it gets emailed out to the subcommittee members, CCing Neto, and whatever we have is what the public is seeing as well. Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Just to be more specific, what do y'all think is the best tool to use to compile those resources internally? Is it just a Google Doc, or is there some other platform or tool that is better or fits our need more as a subcommittee? What do y'all think we should use? Start with a Google Doc and see how it works. Okay. Does anyone feel proficient with Google and Google Docs and willing to start something for the subcommittee?
I definitely do not feel proficient.
I can do it. Even though I'm not a voting member, I can do it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tisha. Appreciate that. Okay, so where are we on time? So, I'd like for us to be done by 11 o'clock. I know that it said that our meeting was scheduled for 2 hours, but I think we usually try and go for an hour and a half. I know we've all got other stuff going on. So want to either wrap up or the conversation about the equitable housing strategies goals. I think we've done some good work there. Do we want to have this be another piece of our homework and revisit it again when we meet next time, or how are we feeling about where we are with our goals? Do we need to spend more time on it, or kind of wrap it up and move on? Thoughts?
I'm gonna just like personally look back at the housing equity study and just make sure that there's parity in the equity language. But aside from that, I think I'm good with what we have.
So that sounds great, Tisha. Since you're going to look back, why don't we also just have this as another piece of homework? Look it over again. Take a couple minutes, everybody, see if this works. Maybe we'll have one kind of final discussion at our next subcommittee meeting to wrap it up. But it sounds like, at least for the moment, we're comfortable with where things are. Maybe a little bit of last minute wordsmithing, but do y'all feel comfortable at this point moving on to number 8, which would be action items? All right, so with that, we will move on to agenda item number 8, which is action items. So I think we have a number of action items. Let me see if I can kind of try and summarize. Well, from our meeting so far, what do y'all think? I know that there are 2 action items. We want to look back at the CEHD mission, and we want to look back at our equitable housing strategies goals, just to wordsmith those a little bit, make sure that they look good, take kind of a final look at them. So I know that that's homework. Let me just jot this down. Review. Okay, review the mission for CEHD. We want to review goals for we're now the EHS subcommittee, I guess.
Jay, on that question, could you add putting forth to the full commission the name change as a formality?
Mhm.
And also, did this committee vote or just nod their heads in consensus in the name change? Was there an actual vote? I'm just doing this for minutes purposes.
There was not. But all those in favor, would somebody like to put forth a motion to change the
Thank you.
name of the commission, the subcommittee?
Put forth a motion to change the name of the subcommittee.
And that the name change that you are recommending, just to be clear, is Equitable Housing Strategies. Is that correct? Or,
Strategies, yes.
do I have a second? Lori seconds. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Rita, did you vote? I'm assuming.
Yes, aye.
Okay. Great. So we have officially changed the name to Equitable Housing Strategies. Snappy, snappy, snappy. So we're now the EHS. Great. Well, that's great. We had a unanimous vote, and we're just moving right along, y'all. Okay, so name change. We're again to the action items. Create a Google Doc for resources. And then obviously part of our homework is to find resources to share. And then, I think as we kind of bring some resources forward, hopefully we'll be able to get a clear picture of kind of some of the things that we want to elevate, and hopefully a decent amount of our meetings will be, talking through some of that stuff. What other action items did we come up with this meeting that I have missed? or that we just need to add?
That captures what I heard coming out of the meeting. And then I'm reminded on page 7, there's also the chart in blue text. So there's a couple of other action items we haven't talked about, but
Nice. Thank you, Kenny. Oh, we're going on some field trips? That sounds fun.
You know, we could probably populate the Google Doc also with suggestions on places to go visit.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll think of some potential field trip ideas and put that on the Google Doc and talk about, you know, if we want to do that, what that might look like. We can obviously do that at the next meeting. You know, I guess one of the other things that we've talked about, and this is just a little bit finer point on the research, I guess, is get the relevant info from planning and development services, I guess that is, right? Analyze and synthesize what the city is already doing regarding equity policy and compare to what's being done in other places. So it's that, you know, getting some clarity about what's being done so that we can kind of compare that to what we're finding in other places. And then meet with the Office of Equity. So maybe one of our action items can be reach out to Office of Equity and you know, I can let them know that we've you know, reconstituted a little bit and maybe put a finer point on our focus and just, you know, reestablish. I know that they were invited this time, but I can reach out as well just to establish that and formalize their participation in our subcommittee. And then I guess the last bullet point, Tisha, you've already volunteered to look back at. So anything else to pull out from the bullet points in blue for our action items? So what I have is, again, review the mission for CEHD that we talked about, review the goals for our subcommittee, create the Google Doc for the resources, find resources to share, put field trip destination ideas on the Google Doc, and reach out to the Office of Equity about their role in the subcommittee going forward. Are there any other action items that we haven't captured that we've talked about, or that we haven't talked about that we want to have on our list of action items? Going once, going twice. Okay, with that, I will move on to agenda item number 9, action items for CEHD. Is there any difference exactly in terms of what we kind of just talked about? Is there something that we need to raise in terms of action items for CEHD for the full commission? So I'll obviously do the report out, and I tried to take some decent notes, and if there are other things that that I miss, obviously folks can chime in. Looks like Ray had to drop off. Any action items for CEHD? Okay. Moving on then to number 10, call to the audience. This is a time when any member of the public may address the Commission on Equitable Housing and Development and the Equitable Housing Strategy Subcommittee. Due to time constraints, the total time allocated for this is 15 minutes. Individuals are allowed 3 minutes each. Due to open meeting law, commission members cannot discuss topics that are not on the agenda. Items brought up by the public may be considered as an agenda item for future meetings. Is there anybody in the public attending?
There is someone in attendance, but no hand has been raised.
Okay. If anybody would like to address the commission, now is your time. Just want to give a minute. Okay, moving on. Agenda item number 11, next steps. The next housing desegregation subcommittee meeting is March 28th at 1 p.m. If I have that right, or the newly renamed subcommittee. One of the things we didn't really talk about is when we want to have this meeting. Obviously, we've got some new members. Does March 28th at 1 p.m. work for folks off the top of your heads?
It works for me. I don't have it on my calendar though, which is what I fear happened last week.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to get them on the calendars.
I know for due to my teaching schedule, that won't work for me. Normally, let's say I get out 1:30, sometime after that, maybe 45, could possibly work, but again, not for the 28th, unfortunately.
So Kenny, on the 28th, you'd be available at like 2 o'clock?
Normally, yes, but unfortunately not on the 28th. There's another event that's kind of pre-scheduled.
Got it. Would y'all like for me to send around a doodle poll to see some times that might work for March? I'd love to, I mean, I don't want to overcomplicate it, but I'd love for everybody to be able to attend if possible.
That's really helpful. It's probably a lot of work for you, Jay, but it's very helpful.
Okay. Maybe I can do two things. Well, let me ask y'all. So there's one about the meeting, the next meeting that, to do a doodle poll, but generally speaking, would 2 o'clock on the last Thursday of the month? That's when we're generally scheduled. Is that correct? We're currently scheduled 1:30 for the last Thursday.
Yes.
Would 2 o'clock on the last Thursday of the month generally work for people, just to move it a little bit for Kenny? Okay, so let's say at this point, Neto, that going forward after the next March meeting, we will be meeting on the last Thursday of the month from 2 to 3:30 instead of starting at 1:30.
Okay. Again, this is for the meetings beginning in April. You'll doodle for the March meeting.
Right. Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks all for your flexibility. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Speaking of meetings, Thursday's full commission meeting will be virtual.
Got it. Thank you. Any other next steps before we adjourn? Hearing none, again, I want to thank all of you for agreeing to be on this subcommittee. I'm really looking forward to working with y'all. I think there's a lot of good stuff that we can do. So again, I'm really excited and thank you very much. And with that, we are adjourned. Have a great week, y'all.
See you Thursday.
Bye.
Thank you all.